The day that being a stoner nearly got me murdered. I grew up in the Appalachian Mountains of the southeast, and my town was actually completely surrounded by various ridges and mountains for as far as the eye could see. Naturally, being high school stoners, we took advantage of the woods to party in during the summer. One popular activity was to head out to a particular isolated creek in the state park to smoke, drink, whatever. The location was accessible only by a winding gravel road way off the beaten path, so it was the perfect spot for engaging in high school shenanigans. It was the best kept secret among the teenagers in the city, and no adults seemed to be aware of this adolescent free-for-all during the summer. My friends and I made the trip out there probably 4 to 5 times a week and would encounter dozens of other kids from our school and other schools. We would spend all day there partying and then bail around sunset. One particular day, my friend brought cheap Barton's vodka to drink rather than the usual awful Natty Light, and we got absolutely housed. Come time when everyone else was leaving around sunset, we were both way too drunk to drive. People offered us a ride, but there was no way in hell I was leaving my car out in the boonies to get stolen by a meth head, so we agreed to wait it out an hour or so to sober up. After every other person had left, we decided to park it by the creek and just chill, smoke a bowl, and take in the scenery. After an hour and a half, it was starting to get really dark. To get down to the creek, you had to climb, and pretty much fall, down a very steep hike where you were grabbing onto trees to keep from plummeting all 50 feet or so. We figured it would be a good time to do that before it got to be pitch black. Just as we were starting up trail to my car, we saw a shady-ass paint-peeling blue van pull up next to my car. The sliding door opened and about 9 Mexicans came out with rifles, and they threw a rope down the trail in order to get to the creek. It was clear that these guys were heading to a pot field somewhere in the mountains. I may have never been more terrified in my life to realize that my friend and I were weaponless, without cell phone service, and possibly between drug suppliers and their land. We quickly hopped across the stream on wet slippery rocks, but my friend fell into the stream and made a loud splash. I cursed under my breath as he rapidly climbed out and dove behind a huge boulder. We could hear them talking, and based on my limited Spanish, they knew we were very close by. By this time, it was getting really dark, so the Mexicans turned on flashlights and began coming down the trail. Luckily all of them went along the other side of the creek, except for one who was at the foot of the trail, standing between us and freedom. Over the next hour and a half, my friend and I went about a mile down the creek, climbed up a steep-ass incline, and crawled to my car like we were fucking plastic G.I. Joes. As soon as I jumped in and turned on the engine, we heard a gunshot in the air. Didn't look back. You know how when you were a child, the shadows of your furniture in your room make weird monster shapes and you think maybe they're real? As a little girl whose father made her watch things like Tremors and The Blob, I had a real imagination problem. But my parents tried to reassure me that there were no monsters in my room. One night when I was in the 5th grade, I couldn't sleep. I looked at the end of my bed and there was another shadowy shape, but instead of looking like my boxy furniture, it had more of a person shape. I pulled my blanket over my head and kept telling myself that it wasn't real. I eventually fell asleep. The next morning there were police downstairs. Apparently someone had cut through the mesh part of the window and broke into our house. Nothing was stolen. They determined that he had only walked into my room and then left. Of course, this had horrified me. I still to this day carry a knife around with me if I'm completely alone in the house. It didn't really end there, though. A few nights later, I was having a sleepover across the street. I remember that night because the clouds were moving by faster than I had ever seen. And I watched them, transfixed, through a skylight. The next morning the police were at my house again. Apparently this person kept calling my house threatening to kidnap and kill me. And that particular night he broke in again to do just that. They caught him and it turned out to be my next door neighbor. A 15-year-old boy with some mental illness. He was hospitalized and my parents had a 5-year restraining order on him.